Alright, so like I said a second ago, I'm recording this for those who couldn't make it today. But we're going to start with 4, 5, and 6, and then once we finish that, we'll wing back around to do any of the other questions. I think Kendall, Khadijah, and Raquel, you were here last time, so you probably won't need the other questions, but if you do, you're welcome to stay. Alright. Does everybody have their part 1 or 2 ready so we can start with those and go from there? Just because you're going to have to plug in your own information. I'll give everyone a second to get that out and ready. While you guys are doing that, let me remind you that this is due on the 23rd. You're turning it in on the discussion board. There is somebody who's already done it in block 4. So you just post your project there. And you're also handing it in to me before Wednesday at 3:10. Make sure you put it in order. So when I open your file on the discussion board, or when I receive your physical file, part 1's on top, part 2 is underneath that, and then part 3 is on underneath those, and each question for part 3 is on their own page. All right, so what I'll do is, like I did last time, I'll ask you guys for 1 or 2 of your numbers at a time, and then we'll just go. This is question number 4. So for this one, we're going to need F, A, B, and 2B. And it looks like we have just enough people to do that. So Emily, if you'll give me your A value, Raquel, give me your B value, Kendall, give me your F value, and which one did I miss? I got it. Okay. And Khadijah, if you'll just send in the chat your A value, we'll kind of use everyone's numbers so that we're still doing the project, but we're not doing it just for one person. So Kendall, were you, is that your, I already forgot, B value? I forgot what letters I gave you guys already. A is 46. Kendall had F, so 95. Raquel was 16 for A, B probably. Okay. And then just Khadijah with 2B. I don't know where I got an E from. Actually, for this one, we're just going to double the B we were given. And then Khadijah will get yours next. So let me start by drawing the triangle. Here is F, where we're going to have 95. 2B is going to be 32. A is 46. And B is 16. So the good news is this triangle doesn't exist, does it? I know it's a nice and early question for you guys, but does anybody see why this one would not exist? Yep, that's exactly it. Kendall said with this 16 degrees here and this 95 here, we need 46 to make a greater side length than that one. So if this was your scenario, we would go ahead and say this you're going to write this out in complete sentences and explain exactly what Kendall said. this triangle. Obviously, you won't draw pictures and use shortcut, but this triangle does not exist because 46 degrees created, not even created, is opposite 32, and 16 degrees is opposite 95. And since we know, what do we know? Greater angles create greater side lengths. And there's going to be a lot of ands in these, so don't plug it in wrong. 46 is greater than 16, but 32 is less than 95. This triangle does not exist. And I'll be honest with you, most of your triangles are going to do this on this project. So if you saw those directions where you're going to do all that reading and proving over and over and over, if we keep landing on triangles that do not exist, you don't have to do all that. You're done. This would be, for number 4, an acceptable answer. Now, instead of just going this way, let's say we did have a triangle that does exist, and let's actually do that. So, oh, we lost Khadijah. So, Kendall, since you answered the question, what do you want to change that 32 to so we can try and solve for this triangle? Make it 100. Sounds good to me. So now we're going to update this to 100. A was 46. And this one was 32. And now we are trying to find both x and y. Let's say we do x first. How would we go about finding x? Questions really, are we allowed to do the 180 minus 46 minus 32? We can start with that just to get an idea. Or we can try and use one of our law of sines or cosines to actually get that exact angle and then generate side y so that we don't have to do extra steps. So if I'm looking for angle x, which one would you guys use? Side angle, side. Law of sines or cosines? Emily, we'll pick you for this one. What would you want to use, or what do you think you would, or how would you set it up? Would you set it up with all sines or cosines? All right, so Emily wants to go law of cosine, and since we're looking for x, we know that this is going to end up being inverse cosine of x. And here we go. If we did law of cosine, we need that opposite. That's going to kind of hold us back a little bit, right? Because we can't have two variables here. Is there a way we can set this up for law of cosines that would allow this to work? And this is an honest question. I may just be not seeing it right now. Raquel, what do you think? Is there a way to set law of cosines up for this? Or are we stuck with law of sines? Or do we just not have enough information? All right, Raquel, so let's go ahead and start with the 180 trick. What would you get for x there, Raquel, if you did the 180 trick? Okay. So Raquel wants to do the 180 trick and then do law of sines. So what would x equal if we did the 180 trick? $78. All right. So if this is 78 and you want to do the law of sines, how would you set that up? It would be I don't think you. So let me see if I set it up the same way you did then. We're assuming that the 180 trick is going to work because this triangle exists. So this is going to be sine of, I'm going to pick 32 over 95 and say that's going to be equal to sine 78, because that's our assumption. Oh, that's the math it wrong. Okay. So this here should be 102. Is that what we're saying? We'll start pushing these Saturday morning tutorings maybe till later in the day. So now that we know it's 102, I'm going to still set it up as sine 32 over 95 because these are both knowns and givens and they are opposite of each other. And then I am going to do my hopefully 180 trick works over the unknown opposite. And then, Kendall, what's the next step here? Cross multiply, perfect. This is going to give me y times sine 32 is equal to 95 sine 102. And Emily, what will we do next? Also, for those of you guys that were here for the last one, I looked at question 3 again, and we did it such a silly way last time that I definitely have a more efficient way to do it now that I'd like to show you. Yep. So divide out. Yep, we want the y by itself. So I'm going to divide both sides by sine 32. And I did not charge my calculator, so I'm going to have to ask you guys to help me put this in. This is going to leave me my numerator the same because there's nothing here to cross out. And I think for this one, we should probably crowdsource it. So there's 3 of us who hopefully have calculators because I forgot to charge mine. Let me know what you guys get for this. And as long as we're all in agreement, we'll know we're okay. Otherwise, I have to open this computer's calculator, and I'm not the biggest fan of that one. So I'll give you guys a minute to put that one in. We've got our first answer in. We've got our second answer, slightly different. Let's see what our third comes in with. All right, so we have 2 answers that are the same at 175.4. If you had 171, try it one more time, see if you can get 175.4. Oh, real quick, everybody tell me which calculator model you're using too, because if we're using the 30XA at home, that one usually requires a lot more concentration in the order. And if we're using the TI 80 series, we can usually just put that straight in in a linear fashion. All right, so we've got someone on their phone. Perfect. Okay, we have a phone, a 30X. Oh, and we're using the Desmos calculator. So that Desmos calculator I'm not too familiar with. So I'm going to pull that up really quick just to see how we would use that. Or what that even looks like. Let's see. Yep. Is this what it looks like? Kindle? This is more in Coach Standhoff's domain. I know they are very proficient in the use of Desmos. Oh, it's not sharing. Okay. Oh, I know why. No, wait. It should be on the screen now. Well, that's interesting. So let's see what kind of settings we can look at here in Desmos. Can you guys see my browser window now instead of the whiteboard? Well, that is interesting. All right. Let's see. It's set for monitor one view. Let me see what the properties are here. Well, that's interesting. Oh, I know why. Can you see it now? Interesting. All right. Well, on this one, I'm getting this different answer, the 171. Really quick. Yep, that's exactly what I just done. So if you click on the wrench, you have radians, and then you just want to switch it to degrees, and let's try it again. Yep, and then it goes. So that's a good one there. I'm actually gonna need to keep this calculator up. I like it a lot more than the built-in native Windows calculator. All right, and then we said I have a question. 32 is which letter again? It is B. Oh, 2B. Is that why it didn't work? I put them in the wrong spot. These are transposed from our actual diagram that we were given. But this one is 175. Is that going to work? Oh, the side length is 175.4. And then if you wanted to check if you could do the 180 minus. So we'll do this one again with everything in the right order, but at least this is an example. This is just an extra warm-up practice, I guess. Let me see. Now, how would I go about finding or verifying that x is in fact 102 degrees? Because this is my y equals. All right, so for my x, I'm going to go law of sines again. You want to go with law of cosines? Let's do law of cosines. So if I wanted that, I would have 175.4 squared, because this is opposite of the angle I want to know. We already know, so I'm not going to ask you guys. We know y and z do not matter which order, so I'm just going to put 95 squared plus 100 squared minus 2 times 95 times 100. and we want x, and it's an angle, so I have to use inverse cosine. I guess start letting me know what is 175.4 squared. Raquel on the phone, I think you'd probably be the fast. Well, the 30x would also be pretty fast for these. Oh, geez. 37.65. I'm just going to go with the 0.16. 95 squared. Okay, that one's much nicer. All right, 100 squared. And then what is 9,500 times 2? $1,900. 95 times 119. Okay. Sneak that back in. Oh, that says Cus. And then what do we do now? Yep, Emily, I saw that, and then I went ahead and tried to like sneakily erase my 0, and then thought about it, but yeah, that's okay. We're gonna add these guys together. You can subtract if you want. If you want to start with this and do minus this, then minus this, you can, or you can add them together first and then subtract them out. As long as we never do anything with this part until we've done all of our subtraction, because this is multiplication happening right there, and we really can't do any subtraction yet. This has 3 place values. This has 4, so this would be. Is that right? Now, I'll be honest. This one's going to be like 11 something, but I'm going to let you guys tell me that. So, because we have this subtraction sign here, we can move this over. This is positive, so we can subtract it to get it over here, leaving us with just everything to the right of that negative that the vertical arrow pointing at. So let's subtract 19,025 from both sides, and we get 11,740.16 is equal to 1902. Well, that's a 02. Woo. 0, inverse cosine of x. And then our next step, and we're running out of room, but is to divide by this to undo that part right there. Here's where I made a mistake on the review. I forgot to bring that negative over. And this would be positive. So on the review, I didn't bring that negative over, and it made a huge difference in our angle. But let's try this one on the calculator. So here's what we're putting. Oh, just rearrange my whole thing. We have 11740.16 divided by negative 19,000 is equal to inverse cosine of x. Now, Kindle, we're using the Desmos Calculator, and I've never really used it before. Do you know how to put inverse cosine in? All right, let me find the function tab. I didn't find it, but you can do cosine and then shift 6 to get an exponent and put -1 and then punch it in. And I see a problem here. Did anyone get 102 as their answer? If you didn't, let me know what you did get. Yep, that's what I got as well. So does this triangle exist? Nope. I agree with you, Emily. This does not exist. The one thing that I'm going to want to check, though, is I used this number that I found based off of the 102 to get this angle. Before I officially declare that, and this we have to be careful with, was there another way to do all of this work to find that side length without assuming 102? And if there wasn't, then we're going to have to start thinking about what happens when our angle and unknown side are opposite of it. We have double unknown. What does that do to us? Is that always going to put us at risk of not being able to find that the triangle exists? So what I want to say is, before we move on, let's try one more time. Or let's just look at it and see, could we have done this from the start a different way where we may not have had this result? Or is there some other way we could have done this? And then we'll actually go back and draw it properly. And I just realized why you guys can't see anything. You can't see anything but the whiteboard right now, but on the video you're going to have the problem up on the right hand side of it. You're going to have the law of sines and cosines on display, and you're going to be able to see other stuff. I didn't really, we're in Zoom, so you can't see anything else since I'm not live streaming the actual setup. So if I look at this, this was given, this was given, and this was an unknown. So that doesn't really do side angle side for me. But if I have two sides and an opposite angle, I can find this using the law of cosines. And let me show you what I mean. What if I were to do, I'm going to change this y to an alpha so we're not confusing the x squared, y squared. What if I said alpha squared is equal to, well, here's x and y, minus 2 times x and y. And then alpha's on the outside, so I'm still in trouble with that one, right? What if instead, and this is going to be new, and this is kind of interesting, I hope, keep this as alpha, but now we're going to put these two on the outside. And we're going to have literally, well, alpha squared plus 100 squared minus 2 times alpha times 100 inverse, regular cosine of 32. Could we solve it that way? Well, you don't want to, right? Because that's going to give me a squared minus 2 alpha, and that's going to make it a pain. So for now, I never showed you that in class, and I said they must be an unknown on the outside. So we are pretty much not going to be able to use the law of cosines. And for now, we'll get a little bit more advanced here when we get back, probably after spring break. But for now, we have enough evidence to say this one would not exist. So what I'm going to do now is, with the realization that you do not have everything I have on my screen, I'm going to go ahead and draw the problem. Emily, thank you for asking where everything came from, because that's kind of what made me realize you guys can't see what's going on, and probably why no one pointed out that I had copied the problem wrong. Okay, now I have it set up, and since there's 3 of us here now, oh jeez, use the mouse for this. The question I'll have for you guys, one more time, let me know what your F, B, and A are. So let me see. Emily, you're at the top of the list. What was your F value? 92. Kendall, you're next on my participants list. What was your B value? 13. And Raquel, what was your A value? All right, before I fill this in, let's see. This would be 47. This would be 13. 2 times B is not going to overcome this. So what I'm going to do is that, and let me just see if it makes sense. This would be 94. And no, it was right the first time. Let's fill it out. A would be 13, B would be 94, F would be 92. Okay, they do need to. Right, would that one work right off the bat? It's already a no, but it's close, but it's not, because 13 and 94 is vastly different. So let's keep our F as 92 and switch B to be 13. And this one to be 47. Meaning I would now need 47 here. B would be 13. All right, this one has a better chance of being real, but I'm going to say a huge red flag here is my side lengths are only have a difference of 2, where my angles are almost 300% different. So let's see what happens if we go with this one. And I'm assuming you guys are all working your own actual numbers while you're kind of just following along with me. Is that the case? Okay, yeah. I mean, that's what I want to encourage you guys to do. Now, my question is, do we have a way to start this problem with only one unknown? Make this a little bit easier on ourselves. I just missed my decimal level. 2b should be 26. So then now we're back at a problem, right? Thank you, Kendall. So we're right back to this not being a triangle. Are all of you guys getting does not exist for your triangles based off of these numbers, or you guys, has anyone been able to find the actual values? There should be a very small group of people who can find the actual values. The rest of us should be getting does not exist. This is still number 4, Raquel. Yep, this is number 4 with the diagram, so you can see what we're doing. This was 13, this was 26. value was Emily. All right, so here's what we're going to do instead. We're going to pick a number, or a number for the letter F that would make this possible. And I think we're not using who had 90. So I'm going to let Raquel, we're not using your number. So what would you like? Okay, so Emily, if you've done yours and that's the answer you got, just like we did earlier on the first one where I kind of explained why it does not exist, you're going to write something similar to that. Obviously, you have different numbers than we had, so. All right, Khadijah's returning. So, Raquel, pick an F value that would make sense. It's got to be much less than 26, right? Because 92 made 26. 13 is going to make a number much smaller than 26. So what do you want to go with? I was actually thinking that too, but I don't know why. I guess because F and 5 start the same. So really quick, using the triangle inequality theorem, I have 26 is my longest side for sure, because it's already eating more than half of the available angles here. I have a side length of 5, and I just want to see what are the possible values of this third side. X is going to have to be at least 21. Well, this should be a greater than, but. So if our answer comes out to less than 21, we're already in trouble. And one thing I want to encourage you guys to do is try and find your side length first, so that you can then find your angle measure last and then compare it to see if it's 108. It's easier to find an angle measure. It's easier when you find the angle measure last. So if I wanted to solve for y, how would you guys set it up? I know you guys are all probably thinking, but we can't solve for y first, right? We need something to compare x to, or at least have a guess for x. Or am I wrong? All right, Emily, I appreciate your confidence in my statement there. So help me think of a way I can set this up to find the side length first, and then use that side length information to find my angle. And then while we do that, we can also appreciate that we assumed questions 1 through 3 would be the more frustrating ones to get through. And yet we're here on question 4 still. Well, let's look at the law of sines, and let's use B and F. If I were to do that, I would have sine 13 over 5. But now I have 2 unknowns, right? If I want this and that. So already, law of sines is not possible. Law of cosines, again, your unknowns have to be here or here. Can't be both, so we're still at both. So again, we have to use, like Raquel said earlier, the 180 trick, and then verify it at the end. So the 180 trick would give me 92 plus 13 is 105. So hopefully x equals 75. And now with that assumption, right, if you wanted to write this a little bit more formally, we're going to say assume x equals 75. Step back to geometry where we can do that. And now we can have sine 13 over 5 is equal to sine 75 over y. you guys have already talked me through all this, so I'm just going to set it up and ask you guys to help me with the calculator part. It's going to be y sine 13 is equal to 5 sine 75. Divide both sides by sine 13. And I'm going to have y equals this. And what does that come out to be for um, well, I've got some good news on this one. Just barely, but it is good news. Let me know what you guys got on your calculator. Yeah. So Emily Kendall, that satisfies this inequality, right? Because right now we're seeing x is equal to 21.5. Raquel, did you get 21.5 for my side length y here? This guy right here. We're just putting in the calculator to make sure all of us get the same answer. If we have one person who is off, then we'll investigate again. Just trying to do confidence in numbers here. Perfect. And then 21.5 satisfies the triangle inequality theorem. So we have a shot here that this could be a real triangle, thanks to the combination of letters we chose to work on and your side length 5 here. So we're going to erase all of this, and now we're going to try and find the angle x, knowing that this is 21.5. So Khadijah just asked a really good question here in a direct message. And that's what we were just dealing with here a minute ago. And so we manufactured this problem to satisfy it. I did say the majority of us will be able to show that the triangle does not exist because of that exact condition. And then I wrote a little way for us to go through and use our personal numbers to show that this triangle would not exist. And I am recording this and I will have it uploaded to YouTube so you can kind of see the format of our answer here, since we have to type out everything in like full sentences and stuff. But what would you say would happen if that happens, where B angle is the smallest but has the second largest side? What would you tell me then? Like if we were on the test, that would be it does not exist, yeah. So then you would say this triangle does not exist, and you can use the triangle inequality theorem as well as the sum of the interior angles not equaling 180 on your project to show me that this triangle in fact does not exist. And that's going to be a common occurrence on all three of these questions today. While I wait just a second to see Khadijah, let me know if that was a sufficient answer, if you have any more follow-up questions to that answer, while I ask Raquel and Kendall and Emily, do you want to use the law of sines or cosines to find this x value? Okay, thank you, Khadijah. So voted for law of sines. So we're going to have sine of, well, let's do 13 over 5. That's what we used last time. And this is going to be inverse sine of x over 21.5, cross multiply. And then we're going to have 5 times inverse sine of x. I've seen a lot of you guys skip this step and the cross multiply step and just say, I know the relationship. Go for it. But every once in a while, I was seeing the reciprocal of what you should have had. Like they would have 5 on top and 21.5 sine 13 on the bottom. If you want to go ahead and do cosecant in your calculator, that's fine. But it's always safe to kind of just do the steps. And there's not that much to write there. So I recommend writing it out. So this time, let's see what we all get on this. Remember, we're doing second sine on our calculator, or if you're using Desmos, Kendall said there's a function tab. I was unable to find it, but you can also hit Shift 6 to get an exponent and put the -1 in there, and it will also work. I will say, Kendall, thank you for showing me this calculator. You're still in readings. All right. 75.3, 75.3. That's so close, isn't it? What are we saying now? Oh, you guys aren't gonna like this answer. I'll give you guys a second to think over what could we do. I mean, that's a small margin of error, right? We wanted 75 degrees from our assumption, but we got 75.3. Error. Ooh. Which someone just sent me a private message saying I keep getting error. Which calculator are you using? There's such a variety. It's easier to talk through by model. All right, that one I don't have in my brain and memory. What version of the Casio is it? Oh, wait a minute. Give me 1 second. Send me your Casio number, but I'm trying to think. I may have one. All right, hold on. I have an FX 250. FX 115 complex. Shoot. Okay. So I don't have that on my wall of calculators. It's just out of frame. This is the only Casio I have. Is it similar at all? I know somebody else at the school has this one. Let me try this one really quick and see what I get. On this one, I'm getting 75 as well, 0.3. Oh, okay, perfect. Now, what I want to offer you guys is when we found this y, we rounded to 21.5. ooh, I don't have the original trig function, but if you still have, well, it would have been sine 13 over 5 sine. I already can't read. What is it? 13. Do we have sine 5 sine 13 over sine 13 to find the angle? I mean the side length y originally. Because if we did, what we could do is go back in here and write this as 5 sine 13 times, oh, it can't be 13. We could put our original trig function there, but I'm not going to ask you guys to do it. You are close enough with the 21.5 and 75.3 that I will accept that as your answer. But you do need to explain in your paper why you are comfortable saying that this is a triangle with that minor discrepancy in the hopefully, or the Raquel method of 180 minus the two given angles, and then actually doing the trig to see that they're so close to each other. I guess what I'm saying is this is approximately the same as 75.3 that we actually found. If anybody in the chat, since you're here for tutoring, wants to take a shot at it, I'm more than happy to read it over. And then everyone in the chat today, I just broke my pen. Everyone in the chat today will have that explanation that we can kind of, again, crowdsource. Or we can move on. I'll let you guys decide. If anybody wants to take a shot at explaining why right now it would be acceptable to say that 75.3 and 75 are close enough. If not, let me know. We can just move on. And I think realistically, the other thing we can do is take a vote on, do you want to move on to 5 and 6? They're going to basically be the same thing over and over. Okay, when you say, nope, I'm good, does that mean you don't even want to try and do the explanation? You're just going to go in the dark? Or like you feel good enough you can just do it on your own before Wednesday? Or you don't want to be the one to take the shot of trying to write it out? Both. Because you know Coach Wilbur on her bulletin board has that text that just says the word pain. I'm going to eventually either put nope, I'm good, both on my bulletin board from a screenshot from one of these meetings, or just Raquel says, Yeah, well, I guess the question, Khadijah, then is, why is it okay? Because what makes that margin of error so small? What did we do during our calculations that did give us that discrepancy? And then I guess if we were going to be more rigorous, what could we do to overcome or stop that discrepancy? So we're asking, why is it okay that the margin of error is so small? Because remember, 70% of your overall grade is how well you explain the math. 30% of the grade is the math. So like on the roller coaster one, even if you get the problem wrong mathematically, but because you had a miscalculation or something, as long as your explanation is solid, and then I could just write to you, hey, you made this error in the calculator, whatever. All right, Raquel, that's the first correct step. And what could I do to avoid that making an error if I had to do this all over again? exactly use those exact numbers. So you would really have anywhere you see 21.5 here, you would actually have the trig expression that generated 21.5. And I'm not going to ask you that. It's going to create a very complex fraction. So if you're within this small margin of error due to what Raquel said in there in the chat, then you are perfectly fine to make that explanation. Now, if we had 75 and 77, I would say that's a little bit too different. So that would be a does not exist case. But this is 3/10 of a degree within each other. I'm going to assume it's because what Raquel has there in the chat. All right. So the question is, do you guys want to see number 5 now? Do you want to go on to, or do you want to work backwards to one of the other problems? Okay, number 5. So let's hide number 4. Let's make number 5 visible. Now, I'll be honest. I'm imagining you guys are all hoping that we will find out rather quickly that this triangle does not exist, and then we can avoid doing the rest of that. So let me draw it, since, like I said, I didn't realize at first. I need to figure out how to just live stream this to YouTube instead, so you guys can see everything I'm seeing. DYE XZF2. Perfect. And it wants us to find the length of x the length of z, the measure of angle. That's a lot to do. So the first thing I want to do is let's make in our substitutions. What I'll do instead this time is ask you guys for, let's see, Raquel, let me know what your E value is. And Kendall, let me know what your Z value is. And once Kendall has her Z value in, I'll have two known opposites. All right. Khadija, let me know what your F divided by 2 is. This might actually come together nicely. And then Emily, let me know what your value for D was. Hopefully it is less than 7. It's 8. Can we just... No need to apologize. What we're going to do instead is we're going to make this one 8 and this one 7. This is the Z right here. And someone asked something else about Z. How did you find the Z value? Oh, I asked somebody for Z and I got a 5. Oh, we were supposed to find that. Not, it was never given. Thank you, Kendall. Yeah, Z. We gotta stay away from rhyming letters too, because I'm struggling this morning. Sorry, I was up grading tests. They're not looking so bad for 5 and 6 so far. Well, I'm only on 5. All right. So we need to find z. So right now we know this is 7, this is 8.5, and this is 8. Do we have enough information here? Yeah, call me out on that, guys. I am definitely going to take a nap after this and then get back to grading papers. Sorry about that. Well, what do we have here? We definitely don't have side, side, side. We might have side, angle. Nope, we don't have side, angle, side. I encourage everyone that can take a nap to take a nap today. I definitely have angle, angle, side here. So what do I use when I have angle, angle, side? Sine or cosine? Easier, thank you. So we're going to go with the law of sines. And this time it looks a little bit more viable. So I'm going to have, well, sine of 7 over 8.5 is equal to sine of 8 over z. Is that set up properly? Let me step back and have you guys do analyzing for me before I start rolling downhill and then get stopped by a sudden tree, which is your question of how in the world did you get that? All right, I've got a looks fine. I'll take one more vote of confidence and then we'll start going through this one. As soon as I get my second vote of confidence, I'll do the steps because we've already talked about cross multiplying and dividing through. I've got 2 votes of confidence. So, I got 3. All right, so we should be golden on this one. So I'm going to have z sine 7 is equal to 8.5 sine 8 divided by sine of 7, and I get z is equal to 8.5 sine 8 over sine 7. And let's do that one together. This is going to be now 8.5 sine 8 over sine 7. Let me ask you this question, Raquel. Did you just round to the nearest whole number, or? Okay, that's exactly what I got. Let's do this just because last time, let's see if we can close that margin of error. Let's round this a little bit further down the line, even though it's going to take more inputs. This is our most exact option later on to check anything else, but let's make this 9.7069. No, 688. I'm going to round it at that 2 to keep it like that. Is that okay? And we're just going to see if we can close our margin of error. Did everybody else get, or would everyone else's round at that point to just stay 9.70688? Or what Raquel put in the chat is way more accurate. All right. Now that we have a good idea of what z is, while I'm erasing, look at all of our numbers and their relationships. Do they make sense? Does 9.7 being there break our triangle or make it a DNA situation, or does it work out that that could be 9.7? While you guys do that. Let's see if we can get somebody. Kendall, yours would round the same way. Perfect. So what do you guys want to solve for next then? We definitely are back in that same problem situation, aren't we? Let's go for y. All right. I agree, right? We've already kind of been burned trying to find x first in this exact same situation. So let's go ahead and say this is 9.70688. Now, to get y, we're going to have to use, I'm going to use red because it's cautionary. This isn't going to be the best way to do it. But these two add up to 15. So this should be 165. Right? But we're going to have to still verify that. So if we suppose, let's start with our assume again. Always put that assume so we remember first, we're kind of back in geometry where we're trying to use the theorems that we had just learned back then to find these angles, find them, and then see if we can verify. If this immediately breaks down and gives us an error or a D&E situation, we're done because we know that 165 degrees is going to be too steep to make this an actual. The good thing is there's a lot of values here, and with that 165, we have a pretty good shot of it happening. So with the 165, what do you guys want to use, sines or cosines? Can we just automatically say sines? Oh, okay, let's do both. Sine will be faster, so let's do sine 7 over 8.5 is equal to sine 165 over x. And that's the law of sines way to do it. Now let's look at the law of cosines way to do it. Oh, I was just asking which one you wanted to do, Raquel. And I've noticed you seem to be in favor of sines generally. If this is cosines, are we in trouble here? Because these are opposites and they're unknown. So we're going to end up with something in the form of x squared. And so we're going to have two variables here, regardless of what the other ab squared is going to be. We have the side links now to do it. The problem is with the law of cosines, our unknowns are still going to be on the outside. So we do have a situation where we have two sides here, but with both of these being unknown, we're stuck with the law of sines for now. So in a few moments, though, we can switch over to the law of cosines to verify our work. So this is going to give me x sine 7 is equal to 8.5 sine 165, which means x is going to be sine 7 over 8.5 sine 165. This is going to be an interesting problem. Let's see which one of these. This is the one I want to play with. That is upside down. Do you see what I meant by we are more likely to make mistakes? I would have to divide by this, so 8.5 sine 165 over sine 7. I would like to say, Raquel, that I'm trying to keep you on your toes, but that would not be the truth. I just gave you the cosecant instead of the sine. All right. Now that we've got it properly set up, let me know what you guys get. I am... Well, I'm not going to say anything. I want to see what you guys get first. Perfect, Raquel. That's the exact answer I got. Somebody else verify that for us. Kindle, perfect. That's okay. Kindle even gave us that one extra digit. So I'm going to go ahead and just round it right here. Do we have a problem? Oh, no, we don't, do we? If it's 18, will 9.7 plus 8.5 overcome 18? Raquel, does the triangle inequality hold true here? Do my two smaller sides add up to be more than my longest side? But my third side here is 8.5. So do these two... See, and now Kendall's starting to get at the heart of why I always insist. Even if I taught you in Algebra 2, I would have started insisting there. We cannot round anymore. We always need to be working with exact answers. And that was really this is going to be our talk after the project's in and everyone's had a chance to present. If you're watching this video or if you're here in the tutoring right now, one thing I'm going to be listening for in your presentation is, are you talking about what happens when you round during this process? So Raquel, to check this, we always add the two shortest sides together. Oh, geez. I see what you're asking. I read that completely wrong. 9.7 and 8.5 is equal to, is greater. Now, is that true? Yeah, it's 18.2. Getting ahead of myself on the preachy part of what's going on. So in your presentation, make sure you're talking about your triangle inequality theorem if you end up with questions 4, 5, or 6 to talk about. If you end up with 1, 2, or 3, you're not going to have to talk about the triangle inequality theorem. Unless you really make a mistake on your roller coaster. But so Kendall said this is going to add up to 18.2. And that is greater than 18.05. So we're in good shape according to the triangle inequality theorem. And look how close we are now. Now we're at a discrepancy of 0.15 on the triangle inequality theorem. So now let's find our angle. And I believe Khadijah said she'd like to see the law of cosine. So let's do that. So if I want this opposite side has to be on the outside with it. So I have 18.0518 squared is equal to 9.70688 squared plus 8.5 squared minus 2 times, I'm going to run out of room, that times 8.5, and then I still ran out of room. Times cosine inverse of y. I'm going to leave you guys up for this 18.0518 squared for me. This is going to be ridiculously long. This is another reason to leave it in exact values. When you try and get more accurate, you just get more ridiculous, especially once you start squaring. $325.8677410. I'm not going to put the 0. All right, how about a 9.70688 squared? What do we get there? Let's do this really quick. Kendall, will you have this part ready for us once we get these parts together? I've got 94.2235519 plus 72.25 minus. And as I'm saying this, I'm realizing you guys are probably doing your project, so I'll give you a second, and then if Kendall will pump in that 2 times 9.70688 times 8.5, I'll know that she's done with her part. Oh, 1651. And then we still have inverse cosine of what? I'll add these two together for us while you guys work on your part. Well, in true Pimble fashion, I just realized I've been doing the calculator, and every time I hit plus, it tells my computer to start recording. No, stop recording. And every time I hit minus, it tells my computer to start recording. So there's going to be sections of this video missing in between me pressing plus and minus. So it's a good thing we're here. And yeah, Raquel, after that, I should probably be doing this all in crayon. I think I started using the calculator, let me see, quite a while ago when we did this first inverse cosine problem. So yeah, there's going to be a few chunks missing from this video. Let me quickly check and see how many video segments I have. So not many things I do are cash money at all. Oh man. Sorry. Math videos. No. Newest video. Oh geez, that is. Wait, maybe it's not too bad. This is today's. Okay, so it looks like there's only 2 pieces of video, so there's going to be a gap somewhere to somewhere else. Oh goodness. Okay. So, well, we'll see where it picks up and where it drops off. If you weren't able to attend tutoring, if you're watching this, I apologize for not realizing that. So, and let's all give Raquel a double thanks for taking over calculator duties. Raquel, did you say this resulted in an angle of 95 degrees? So that's bad news, right? So show all of your work that we've done, and then show me right here that with that assumption, it did not find us a triangle that exists. I mean, it kind of. Oof. All right. Kind of makes sense. Let me switch over to question 6 really fast. All right. Question 6. Well, first, any questions about 5? Other than we have to show all of that work to kind of show where everything fell apart. Because not only does 95, not only is 95 not even close to approximately 165, and we were much more precise in our rounding this time, so we have a better chance of saying D and E here. Well, we have a better standing for D and E here, but if I look at question 6, there are only 6 questions. Yep, this will be our last one, and then once we get through this one, we'll be able to go through any of the other questions you guys might have. Like I said earlier, whether or not it's in the video, I don't remember. Well, we won't know until I edit it because I cut out so much. I would like to go back to question 3 and just talk about an easier way to do question 3 for the walks, you know, the 3 walks underneath the roller coaster. Much more efficient way to do it. Our previous tutoring had the foundation for what we would do, so, and our new way would be slightly more accurate. But that being said, that's true, Raquel, but it's going to be hard to remember what I said. I'd say so many random things. But if we don't have questions on 5, let's knock out 6. 6 does not have anything unknown that is opposite of each other. So we should be good to go on this one to explain everything. So I have a triangle. And it is labeled X here, Y here, A here, I have 21, I have Z, and I have. So that means I'm going to have to ask you guys for A, F, and Z. I guess the same. Khadijah, if you'll give me your A, Kendall, you give me your F, and Emily, you give me your Z. I write these in the wrong spots because I've already forgotten. I keep doing this. Why? Yet we don't know Z. So I should have. It's the ones that rhyme that keep getting me. All right. So F is 95. A is 59. Do we have enough information here to find something? And if we do, what would you guys like to find first? The Y. Let's see. Raquel picked Y. Why did you pick Y? Yeah, perfect. I don't know this, but I do know this, and I already have a given set of opposites. So I'm going to go law of sines on this right away. Sine 59 over 95 is equal to sine inverse of y over 21. 21 sine 59 is equal to 95 sine inverse of y, meaning sine inverse of y is 21 sine 59 over, 95. All right, I'll let you guys work yours, look mine over, double check me, and then we will get it into oh, I really hope something's wrong here. So Raquel, that's what you got. That is nowhere near what I got. And I know I'm not supposed to be the calculator person now. And I'm running the risk of closing the video again, but let me do it on this calculator. I did something wrong. Okay, I have 21 times 59 sine. Hit equals and divide that by 95 sine. second inverse. Kendall, you and I have the same answer, and I think we did the same thing. We forgot the inverse. Yep, okay. So, 3 of us made the same. That's so why don't we just call this 11? Oh, 11 made 21. 59 made 95. This time, we don't need to do the geometry Raquel approach of 180 minus the 2 angles, because I have enough information to do this another way. I'm going to stay with sine 59 over 95. This is why I say always put your knowns on the left so you can start with the same starting situation. You're going to get to the same end situation, except for now we're going to have something switched. Uh-oh, we have x and z. We have to do Raquel's method, don't we? Oh man, it's like whoever designed this project really wanted you to do something you're no longer allowed to do and then go back and check and see why you're no longer allowed to do it. So, what would that be? That's going to be 70. So this guy in red is 110, hopefully. I know. I really thought I would maybe only done that to you once, but here we are. Over z. This is z sine 59 is equal to 95 sine 110, meaning that this is going to be, I'll put the whole thing in red since we're not sure now. Where am I getting 45 from? That should be 95, right? Khadija, that's probably what we're all going to get there. I would imagine we're all about to have that same conclusion. This is going to be 95 sine 110 over sine 59. Is anyone else getting the same result that she did? 9 times. Oh. Well, wait a minute. I'm getting 9.8 for my side length here, z. Is anyone else getting 9.8 or 9.9? Is if you are, Khadija, you're going to have to finish that sentence. Because 9.8 is not going to satisfy the triangle inequality theorem. Okay. Okay. So I definitely put something wrong. Am I? Oh, I have 9 sine, not 95. All right, let's see. 95 times 110 sine. 59 sine. I'm getting 104.1462995. All right, so let's go with 104.14. So this plus this overcomes the third side, so that's a good sign. But now let's just try and find x and see if it works backwards. So this is going to be a law of cosines. this is going to be Khadijah, it's most likely going to be your personal triangle. All right, Raquel, we'll do law of sines. I just wanted to do a law of cosines. So we haven't really done many of them on the video, but you guys are in charge. So law of sines. No. I'm going to go the way you guys went. This is your class. I'm just here to pretend like I have no idea what's going on. So you guys correct me constantly so you feel more confident, because you definitely should if you're in here. I'll be honest, 1 or 2 honest mistakes, but a couple goofy ones by design. So we knew 59. We knew 95. Now we're going to do inverse sine. And this is 104.14. This is going to give me 101.14 sine 59 is equal to 95 inverse sine of x divided by 95. And we're going to put this in to our calculators and then hit second sine. Oh, where's the backspace? We got 69. Raquel, how many decimal places did you use on the 101.14? Did you go further out than that? Or did you also use 104.14? Okay, let me double check my work. 1.14 times 59 sine equals divided by 95 equals second sine. So you did more decimal places? It's 104.14. I promise I noticed that right before it came in. In degrees. Right. I'm going to hold myself accountable. My calculator is older than all of you, and I've just realized every time I'm hitting buttons, it's not quite showing up. It's not taking while I'm hitting times, multiple times. 57, that's that sine equals, and then I get this. And now I'm going to divide that by 95 and make sure that I get both numbers in. And then I hit second sine. And I'm getting this 66.8. And now we've got a 69.8. I think what we're mostly doing here is building our case or our argument for why we do not ever want to round. And I really would think at the conclusion of your paper, that should be kind of what you're drawing here, right? Between Khadijah really getting frustrated with these either not existing or why. And one thing that we're going to do next year is take some of your papers, I'm going to save them, and pre-calc is going to have a second part to this project where they're going to analyze your work and go back and plug in exact values to see if any of your D&Es do become real. So you guys got about half of the actual project planned, but we've got a sweeping answer here. So let's double check something else. That's it, Khadija. Yep. All right. Emily, I redid it. It is not at all. You were absolutely right. 69.88 is what I'm getting now. So, guess what? This is not a triangle. Raquel, if the wait what was for what I was just saying a second ago, for this project next year in pre-calc, a couple of you all email and say, hey, can I use your project next year because it was done really well? And then the students are going to go back over, your name won't be on it obviously, but the students will go over your work and then they're going to have to plug this in, not using like here 104.14. They're going to need the exact 95 sine times 110 over sine 59 to see if any of your D&Es become true triangles. So you guys are laying the groundwork for this. You guys this year are just, you're getting away with a little bit of lazy work, right? Because you don't have to go, I'm not asking you to go back and plug in the exact values. So in your conclusion, you could write about how, had you gone back and plugged them in, you may have found, especially the one that was off by 3/10 of a degree would probably have ended up being exact. So today's tutoring could have been summed up in about 3 minutes of most of your triangles are not going to exist. And you definitely need to write about why on each of them, like why it failed, where it failed, and how you knew. Write whether or not you tried a different way. Second major thing is, that was a weird pop-up. Second major thing here is, for any parents that are watching this, I like to play the fool a little bit in class too and pretend that I have no idea what's going on or lead people on for the calculator. But today there was a couple that were just me not playing the fool, but being the fool. So sorry about that. And then the third is, let's really quickly, if you guys don't mind, look at the roller coaster for part 3 really quick, because I did think about a much more efficient way to go about this than what we did last time. And this is just discussing the walks part. So we have our triangle here. And we all had to pick our height of our triangle. And then we did some other fancy stuff by, making sure this was the altitude and the median and all of that for our height. But what we were talking about the other day was, there's no way to, well, that's not at all the, uh-oh. Okay, so I guess in this case they're gonna, no, Raquel, definitely don't redo it, but let me show you a more efficient way we could have done it. So yeah, if you were here last weekend and you were able to already do it, please don't redo it. But let's take a moment to appreciate what we could have done. So here I am at the peak. I'm looking straight forward. And if I want to know what this angle of depression is, it's however much I would have to move my eyes down here. And let's say that is 76 degrees. Are we good there? Then I can draw this so that these are parallel. That means because these are parallel, this is my transversal, meaning I have alternate interior angles here. Actually, let's draw this with the straight line tool. Don't use the same color. So here I'm just going to draw this opposing triangle, where this would now be the right angle. And we know the alternate interior angle tells us this is 90 degrees. And if we turn our heads and these are parallel, if from here to here is 76, here, that's what you're telling me. Yep. Thank you. What would be these really acute angles? So I guess what would this one and this one be? We know they're congruent. Just have Emily here. Emily, if I know this angle is 90 and I know this angle here is 76, what's my third angle going to be? Yep, that is it. This is 14. This is 14. Now, just for sanity's sake, let me bring just this triangle that is pink and green over here. And fill in the information we know. 76, 90, 14. You guys got to pick your height. Does anybody remember their height? I guess it really doesn't matter, right? Because we're not using your other numbers, but let's say that the height was, I don't know, 200. And we wanted this side length. I now have enough information to do this a bunch of different ways. Well, really, I'm going to want to start with, if I want to know what this is, I know that this is the angle opposite of it. And since I don't know the hypotenuse, I know that this is the adjacent. So I have opposite and adjacent, but I have not just done tangent. 14 is equal to x over 200. It just ended up with tan 14 is equal to x. Instead of doing all of that geometry, I mean, if you think about how much time we spent on those walks class, all of this would be, and of course, where x equals half of walk 1. Because we still need this side of it. So, this is 40, let's just call it 49.8 is equal to 1/2 of walk 1. So, walk 1 would just be double that. What is 49.8? That's 98. 50.6. 50.6. 99.6. Yeah. So then walk 1 would be 99.73. Much more efficient, much more relevant to the assignment itself too, right? Yeah, that's it. That is it. I want to show you guys, since you guys have returned, it's been, the same group both days. This is the difference between letting you guys freestyle using all of your knowledge that you know versus just going directly to the point. I will say though, I appreciate that what you guys did was, it is, Khadijah, 100%. But what I was most impressed by last time is you guys were so confident in the geometry of it all that you were able to find it the same way. But this is 100% easier. Not even 100, this is so much easier. So, one thing you guys can talk about in your paper is the group that we had last week in tutoring here being much more confident in their geometry and using our rules of altitudes, medians, the Pythagorean theorem, hypotenuse leg theorem. I mean, you guys ran through so many chapters of geometry to get that answer. It's very impressive. But now we can cut right through that, and this would have been another way to do it. We have a couple minutes left. I'll just open the forum to you guys to either say why let us go down that path last week when we could have just seen this path, or ask any questions you do have about the project. I do have a prepared response about letting you guys choose your path, but if you don't want to hear it, I'd rather answer your questions. And I guess if you're watching the video, scan it and just fill it out too so I can see who's watching the videos, and you still get your tutoring credit. Any final questions for me? I saw one about I will be, once I hit stop on this video, I'm going to splice all the videos I made by accident by pressing my on and off button. I'll have it up today. Ooh, good question. If you're watching, go ahead and put it as Zoom since we weren't on campus. If you're watching this on YouTube, but you weren't here live to ask questions, go ahead and put Zoom. Definitely, Emily. Ooh, when you say first part, do you mean questions 1 through 3? Because those I didn't record. Well, let's, Khadijah, thank you. I tried to record them, but I only got audio out of it, so there's no picture. And that's why this time I was much more careful to make sure I was recording. But then I stopped it a few times. That's always the way it happens, isn't it? What's next? All right. Well, let me do this. It's a good thing you had 4 days off. Or you have 4 days off. Hopefully this project doesn't keep you up till 2 a.m. again.